Welcome to the Saving with Steve show, where we talk about the ins and outs of money. Pretty much everything under the sun relates to you having a happier, healthier relationship with money. My name is Steve Sexton. I want to thank you for joining us. We have over 1.5 million listeners just here in the United States. We're really grateful for you. Folks, we've got something special for you today. You're experiencing right now the government shutdown. You're seeing what happens with the airlines. How long will that go on? Nobody knows. We just found out 153,000 jobs have been eliminated due to AI. Likely more to come. The Federal Reserve lowered interest rates, 5 stocks. Gold's hitting record after record. Wall Street titans like the CEO of Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. We even got Berkshire Hathaways have indicated expect significant pullbacks in the next 12 to 14 months. What does this mean to you if you're retired or about to retire? You're in luck. We have Al Caicedo from CKS Summit Group. Al has been a financial advisor out of Michigan for almost 30 years. He's been featured on Barney & Company, Fox Business, CNBC, and many others. He's really sought after. What you really want to know about Al is he teaches, mentors other financial advisors how to properly serve their clients. He breaks down what's happening in the market so the advisors can help their clients. We're really lucky to have Al here. Al, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Steve, always a pleasure to speak with you and an honor to be here.
Let's get right into it. We saw the Federal Reserve reduce interest rates. What's really interesting is the Federal Reserve handled the 2-year Treasury and everything went down. We had people say, hey, you know what? Interest rates are going down. Your mortgage is going to go down. But that didn't happen because we found out this morning that mortgage rates are going up. So what's going on with all this so people can understand what happens and what it means to their credit and what's making the interest rates go up and affecting their mortgage and so on?
Steve, that's an awesome question because there's so much misunderstanding when it comes to interest rates. Everybody thinks back a few years when we went down to zero, almost zero, right? When interest rate environment all the way down. And geez, almost everyone in this country that could refi, they bought. It was incredible. So of course, people think that if interest rates are coming down, the one that we hear all the time that people talk about is that 2-year Treasury. People constantly remember that when that 2-year Treasury back when the boom was happening was coming down. What they weren't really paying attention to was that the 10-year was also coming down. We're going to talk a little bit about what that 10 means, but the reason why today people equate that is because they're going back and saying, geez, there's a disconnect saying, man, these are going down, but why in the world are interest rates for homes and things like that not following suit? The Fed can only control the 2-year Treasury. Okay. And the 2-year Treasury is all about short-term lending. This is what your credit cards are put on. This is what your money market account, those type of things that you see on an everyday basis that are short-term in nature. So those things are affected by the 2-year Treasury. A few months ago, people were getting CD rates near 4.5, and all of a sudden now they're under 4, getting down to 3, and now the real short-term ones are under 1 again. That's because that short-term Treasury is going down. But what people don't understand is the Fed, the president, Congress, they cannot control the 10-year Treasury. That is what everything for long-term borrowing is based on. Home loans, long-term loans, all of that is based on the 10-year Treasury. There's only 2 things that move the 10-year Treasury, and that's market conditions and economic conditions. There's not a human being that can pull a lever like the Fed is doing right now. And we've seen it twice now, Steve, where Powell has lowered that short term. And what happened to that 10-year? It went up. Okay. And we saw it this time, right before this last drop, it was at 3.7. And immediately following that, it got up to 3.9. Then you and I even spoke a little bit after that, and we saw it reach up to 4.1, and now it's hovering right around 4.
That's close to 4.9. Sorry.
So now look at what's happening. What does that mean to the average person? That affects the economy in a way where housing drives the economy. Building drives the economy. When levels are where they're at, you start seeing housing, that starts to form that crack. As a person who is near retirement or in the distribution phase of their life, these are warning signs. The 10-year treasury, believe it or not, is like that fortune teller type thing. Things are not quite what they seem. We still don't believe that inflation is under control. There's still issues with the economy. It doesn't make sense. You want a really good sense of what's going on? You don't look at the 2, you look at the 10.
So what you're saying is a lot like a GPS when there's an accident. It's saying, hey, we've got some disruption on the roadway. You better slow down or find another direction. Otherwise, this might not work out for you.
Absolutely. Because the one thing that can possibly affect that 10-year treasury is unemployment. But even with that, we don't even know because today we were supposed to get numbers, and because of the shutdown, we have no numbers. Isn't it crazy that now we're in such a critical point of our economy, but it's almost like we're doing blackout driving. It's almost like you're driving on the highway and they put a black thing in front of your windshield and it says, go.
So what you're saying is the economy is driving blind because they don't know what the consumer price index is going to be. They don't know what unemployment's going to be. They don't know what inflation's going to be. The last thing we heard from the Treasury is that we're going to have inflation up, which means people's prices for everyday goods are still going to stay high. Well,
Absolutely.
this means people are going to still struggle with that, and it's going to create more of a dent into their budget and maybe taking more money than they typically would from their finances.
It's got that domino effect to it. So the 10-year treasury is such a powerful instrument. And the focus right now, always being on the 2, just doesn't make sense. I don't care who's in power. I don't care who the Fed is. Again, it has a mind of its own and it'll only move on certain conditions. But right now it's saying, hey, slow down. Things might not be what they seem. There's overvaluation. There's tax. We're in serious debt in this country. Remember, those are all factors that 10-year treasury is taking on.
One of my viewers said the last time the 10-year treasury got close to 5 was in 2022 and they saw the market retreat. Is there pressure that the 10-year treasury puts on portfolios?
It puts a huge amount of pressure because what's happening is they're saying that you're getting more return on the long-term risk than you are on risk itself. What it means is that as this thing starts going up, typically when that, this is not set, but what we start seeing is a lot of pressure starts happening into the markets once that thing starts to reach 4.5. That really puts a lot of pressure on the market because it's telling the markets there's a lot of things that are not correct. Something in the economy or in the markets is really weighing on that. Once it starts inching up to 4 or 5, and then when it gets up to 5, you better have made a lot of adjustments prior to because things will happen quickly.
Hey, folks, you definitely want to stick with us. We're going to be right back with more Caicedo. These pearls of wisdom, it's like a GPS for what you're looking to do with your retirement. So stick with us. We'll be right back with more Saving with Steve. Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show. I truly want to thank you for tuning in and appreciate you letting your friends and family and associates know about the show. All the replays are available on savingwithsteve.com. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful information and insight on Saving with Steve, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a show. Check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, E360 TV, Las Vegas TV Network. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and live a life of personal and financial freedom. You can also follow us on Facebook at Saving with Steve Sexton, Insider Club, guest gifts, and more. And with that, I really want to get back to Caicedo because the pearls of wisdom that are coming here are something else. So let's talk about the next thing, okay? There's been multiple reports that shows, and the numbers are showing this as well. So there's 5 stocks. Part of that magnificent 7 represent 41% of the growth in the S&P 500. Now, on top of that, those 47, they represent 47% of the capitalization of the S&P 500, which is gigantic. That means almost 495 stocks only represent about 53% of the capitalization. That means there's such a concentration in essentially these AI stocks. Now, that, you know, you've heard overvaluation. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what's going on there. And then let's talk about how should people be looking at this? What should people be doing? You know what? Even recently in the markets, we see some pullback, and a lot of it has to do with AI. So, Al, I'd love to hear the thoughts on, hey, markets over concentrated. How do you feel about that? What should people be looking at?
You know what, Steve? I love history. I'm a student of financial history. Do you believe that history has a way of repeating itself?
Oh, yeah.
The thing is that every generation chooses to believe it's going to be different, right? The same thing happens in the financial markets. Let's talk about 1964. We saw similar things happen in 1964 where a handful of stocks dominated the S&P, okay? And we know that what happened 2 years later, right? 2 years later, we went into a 16-year secular bear market through the 70s and the 18% inflation. History again hit us in 1998, right? Back to 2000. What do we have? A handful of companies that controlled the markets. What happened? From 2000 to 2023, in 2003, we took that first big hit. We felt it, over concentration. Now we're seeing it again. So if history has a way of saying, okay, this has happened, now this is your third time around, why do we expect that to be any different? Hopefully you have been excited about it. I've been excited because it in some way has had a positive result on a lot of our portfolios. But if you have this much concentration, see these five stocks, not these little ones, these are gigantic stocks. These gigantic stocks have all the control over the other 495 that are in the S&P, because if you took them out, the S&P would actually be sucking wind this year. The broad market would be way down than what it is right now. So when things happen to them, we're seeing a little bit of that this week. Anything that happens to these guys has what we call a systemic risk through the entirety of the market. That's how much power they have. You're retired or about to be retired, and you're putting all those years of work into a situation controlled by 5 to 7 stocks, where the smallest of things create huge shakeup. When we're retired, it doesn't take a lot of shakeup to create incredible volatility. The volatility is the enemy of the one thing that people in retirement need, which is what? Income. Okay? It affects our income. Volatility is awesome when you're 20s and your 30s and your 40s and all that kind of stuff, because you know what? In chaos, there's all this other stuff and you're not touching the money and you let it grow. But the world changes when you get here. So the effect of these stocks, when there's over concentration, it means you're putting a lot of hope and a lot of faith that nothing goes wrong. And if you look at what's happening today, some good sizable cracks are starting to happen. You're looking at the fact that you have now some of those bigger AI companies are putting money into other companies that are their direct customers. Think about that.
And you're talking about OpenAI.
Open AI companies like that, NVIDIA doing the same thing. All those companies, what are they doing? They're investing. The next big crack is who's going to pay for all these data centers? We just saw them go into the open credit market. We just had a CEO come out and say, how about if the federal government funds this? And of course, that was slapped up and down. And the market said, are you crazy? And she quickly retracted.
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm in a position where I no longer have that income from the JOB, man, my thinking is a little bit different. My way of looking at this and saying, wait a minute, the impact on me can be substantial versus somebody who's 30 years old.
When you're about to retire, you're in an age you've never been, at a time you've never been in. The experience that you used to have, that job where, hey, if it went down, okay, 2008 hit, it went down a whole bunch. Okay, I'm okay with that because I still got a job to cover my expenses. So I had time for it to come back. But when you're about to retire, you're a couple of years prior, 5 years prior, or when you are retired, I'm going to stop working in a couple of years. But if this happens, I might not be able to stop working in a couple of years. It might be 5 or 6 or 7 more years on top of that. or I'm in a position where I can't go back to work, don't have the ability, the health, or the energy to go back to work. And yet I'm seeing significant reduction in my portfolio, especially if this stuff happens with AI that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Vigilance and really understanding. Everybody gets all caught up in the euphoria. We call it unrealistic exuberance. There's all that froth going on and you get excited about it, but you need to have a clear plan. What is your goal? It's really about the years you put in. It's really not about the money. The money is only a conduit. The money was what you earned for all those years you put in. And then the reward is your lifestyle. So are you going to put all those years at risk in a time where risk and reward for a retiree? I'm not talking about your 30-year-old audience or 40-year-old audience. I'm talking about your pre-retiree, where risk and reward at this moment, I don't know. Because when you're looking at that, and if you understand the dynamics of systemic risk and go back to 1964, the outcome so far hasn't been positive.
So folks, you really want to stick with us. We're going to be right back with more Saving with Steve, because we're going to talk about things you can do now to help put yourself in place to deal with this in case you're in this situation. So stick with us. We're going to be right back with more Caicedo right here on Saving with Steve. Hey folks, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you letting your friends and families know about the show. Again, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Never miss a show. Check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, E360 TV, and Las Vegas TV networks. They're dedicated to empower you to solve problems, uplift your spirit, and live a life of personal and financial freedom. Al, one of the things that I want that many of our viewers and listeners, they're chiming in, they're saying, hey, you know what, we heard Ray Dalio talking about some issues in the market. We might have a little more run before the downturn. We hear Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. We hear people from Warren Buffett. They're all talking about, you know what, that there's likely to be a downturn in the market in the coming 12 to 24 months. When people who are significant like that saying that, what does it mean to the people who are in that pre-retirement and retirement phase?
I love this. Steve, there's this red balloon. All right.
You know, like the one we had when we were a kid in this.
When we were a little kid, remember that movie, the little red balloon? Guess what? That little red balloon's back. And now the only thing is this red balloon is floating. I want you to picture this. It's floating all through Wall Street. And you know what it's looking for? It's looking for a pin. And when a balloon and a pin meet, right? That's where we're at. See, when you hear things from some of these individuals and you're talking about Warren Buffett, you think about what Warren Buffett right now, he has increased his position, his cash position, which typically hovers around 17%, and now is over 34% of his portfolio that he is now sitting on cash. So it could either be one or two things. He's either ready to make a big boom, or if you really know Warren or know about him or have studied him, is he being cautious? Because if there's ever been an investor that is truly a value or undervalue investor, I would probably say it's Warren Buffett himself. As a matter of fact, there's an indicator called the Warren Buffett indicator, which is market capitalization versus GDP. That particular index says that anything over 135% is overvalued. Folks, we are well over 200%. I want you to just take that number in. 200%.
It's 222 right now.
220. Let me tell you, this thing is so stretched right now. And it's going to continue to be stretched. Remember as a kid when you were trying to blow the biggest bubble you can do from a bubble gum? What would happen? As it gets bigger, it's euphoric and more exciting, but then it gets more intense. An index like this is telling us things are just out of whack. So, can you blow more? Yes, of course you can. You can try to push it as far as possible. But there will be a time where we can talk about another great, Robert Schiller. We look at his worst time, that PE ratio, price to earnings. This is how people buy things. The Schiller PE ratio tells us whether something is at value, below value, or more importantly, overvalue, right? Steve, I think his worst time, it was at 44.
Yeah.
That's back in 1999, where it usually hangs around. It's around what, 16?
Yep.
What do we have?
40.
44 shy of an all-time high. 4 shy of an all-time high, which, by the way, this is exactly where we were just a few years ago in December of 21 to November of 21. And what happened in 2022?
The market went down
There you go.
a lot.
Again, history is teaching you, is telling you what makes today different than any of those times. What is making today different than any of those other times? This is understanding that things cycle through. When we were young and we didn't need the money, those cycles worked in our favor because it allowed the markets to do what they're doing. We weren't touching the money. But man, the minute you start touching the money, everything that happens has a direct effect on your portfolio. And we have to listen to those, especially when you're in this critical time of your life. Like you said, Steve, at an age you've never been, at a time you've never been. But the good thing is that you have history that help guide you into making wise and prudent decisions. So this is why, like I've heard you say many times, Steve, your portfolio needs to answer what questions? Those 3 questions. Give them to me really quick.
They engineered for the good? Are they engineered for the bad? Are they engineered for the uncertain?
If your portfolio is not answering those questions, you are really putting yourself in peril.
Could you clear up when somebody looks at, hey, how is your portfolio engineered for the good? Could you clear up what that means and how a portfolio would be engineered for the bad or the uncertain?
Yeah, because there's still possibilities of growth. So how is your portfolio engineered to say, hey, for that particular money, we have purpose money, we have performance money. For my performance money, the money that's not obligated to me, the money that I don't rely on for anything, whether it's there today or not tomorrow, is that money positioned to take advantage of some of this craziness? Okay? Is it engineered to maximize those opportunities?
This is about maximizing the exuberance happening right now.
Correct. For money, is it engineered to absorb the losses? Because now that's more important. What's more important here? In retirement, it's not the gains, it's the money you have, the money you keep, the money that's in your pocket, the money that's feeding your lifestyle. How are we going to mitigate that? What's the plan behind that? How is it engineered to take losses? Is it just say, hey, Steve, I'm sorry, you lost money, buddy. Hang in there. In the long haul, you're going to be fine. And you're thinking, my God, I'm 70 years old. How long is my haul?
And then the other problem is, how long do I wait to get my balance back so I don't eat it all up?
Absolutely. Because every time somebody tells you to hang in there, you know what they're telling you, Steve? Stop living. Stop your lifestyle. You wanted to take that trip? You wanted to do a huge gift for your grandchildren or children? Let them go work. Let them do their thing. You'll get to it. Don't worry. Things will come back. They're saying delay everything you want.
They gave you the someday speech.
Amen.
Well, maybe you don't have time.
You don't have time. And then, of course, the uncertain, which is what we're in right now, which is how does this portfolio behave? It's not about just getting out of the market. Are you looking at the entire universe of conservative investments that can keep that portfolio growing consistently, but with safety in mind? This is where your obligated money is. This is where your money that you are using to fuel your lifestyle. This is the money that has to be there. This is the money that you don't want market conditions to cannibalize. This is about staying in control in an out of control situation.
Al, that's wonderful. Hey, folks, we got to take a break. I was waiting as long as I could. So stick us. We're right back with more Al Caicedo. You can see why all these advisors flock to him because he really understands what's going on, what's going to happen to people, and how the markets work. So stick with us. We'll be right back with more Saving with Steve. Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show where we talk about the ins and outs of money. I do want to thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate you sharing this with your friends and family. Again, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a show. Check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, E360 TV, Las Vegas TV Network. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems and uplift your spirit. Now, we're going back to Al Caicedo here. It's just pearl of wisdom after pearl of wisdom. Al, thanks for being here today. We've got about 6 weeks before the end of the year, and then we're moving into 2026. What are the things people should be doing? What steps should people be taking right now with what's going on in the market? What would be the things that people should be thinking about right now, talking to their advisor about to make sure they're set up for the remainder of the year as well as moving themselves into next year?
This is saying that if you want to end strong, you start stronger, right?
Oh, yeah. Got to be in shape.
If I'm in that position where I am in retirement, the number one thing that I would be doing over the next few weeks is getting a defined, intelligent exit plan put in place.
Okay, so let's talk. What is an exit plan? And what does that mean? Because every time everybody hears exit plan, they hear, I got a time to market.
Yeah, it's not about timing the market. Let's go back to our childhood days when some of us didn't have gray hair and some of us had hair. Let's just go high school, whatever you want to go to, middle school. And we had this thing called a fire drill. And why did we have a fire drill? Because in case of a fire, you wanted an orderly and safe exit out of a what? A burning building. Okay.
Hopefully your portion of the building wasn't burning.
Yeah. You wanted a safe where people would know that if things happen, you knew exactly how to react. An exit plan out of the market is exactly what you said. It's not timing the market. It's about having a clear plan as to how you are going to capture the gains and mitigate the losses. Okay? So that you have a defined written goals as to what exactly will happen as these chaos, as these economic environments keeps changing. It takes the emotion and the guessing when things get, because think about what happened in 2022, what happened in 2008, what happened in 2000. When chaos happens, right? We lose clarity. The one thing we want to make sure of is that clear minds make clear decisions. So when things get hectic, I want to know exactly how I'm going to do something so that I don't do something erratic. So I don't all of a sudden just sell out. That I don't all of a sudden get all crazy and say, oh my God, and run for the hills. I have an orderly plan to continue having a portfolio that continues to fuel my lifestyle without interruption.
How does that look?
It depends on who you are and how the plan is written. Everybody's exit plan is going to be different. It could be based on goals. It could be based on numbers. It could be saying at a 15%, at a 10% reduction in wherever I'm at today, I am going to do this. Or when I reach this goal, because I'm saving for something, I've reached this goal. An exit plan has a lot of different doors to go out of. It's not just one door. There's not a blanket plan that says this is the only door that has multiple doors depending on what you're trying to accomplish through your plan.
Okay, so for example, you have your primary plan where you say, hey, I have this allocation and I'm going to continue that until something happens. It could be volatility, it could be a family issue, could be emergency.
Correct.
So you're looking at the next step. If that volatility continues, I reduce to lower volatility assets. I look for more things that create income to create stability.
Correct.
Most important with a plan is to make sure that you have a year or two of assets set aside designed to cover daily living, emergencies, medical.
Correct.
And then you were talking about, hey, if things went down 10, 15%, that sounds like a trigger. So should you have listed triggers for, hey, if this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this, just like a fire drill.
It keeps you disciplined. It's discipline and emotion. It's control. One of the biggest mistakes is when emotion sets in, we lose discipline. So we have set targets, it lets us know, okay, we're at that target. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to be emotional about it. It's written, it's done. I initiate my plan.
And those plans are a lot of times initiated prior to the bigger drops of volatility in the market. Because
Oh,
there's a
absolutely.
number of people in '08 that, you know what, we're going, oh, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. And the next thing they're down 40%. And they're going, okay, I went from 1 million to 600,000. And now I still have to take my $40,000 a year. And I went from taking a 5% withdrawal to an 8 or 10% withdrawal. And that doesn't really work for the portfolio because it just eats it down.
Which, of course, we understand if you get caught in the wrong sequence from 2002 to 2010, what a lot of people call the lost decade. It's interesting to know that during that time frame, the S&P, believe it or not, actually averaged what, 5%, but it was a zero return. If you
Mhm.
were in that situation and you got caught in that, your portfolio could have gone from 1 million to 500,000 based on 4 bad years. That happens because you don't have a plan. There is no set plan, whether it's asset movement, exits, or anything like that. You're caught up in the emotion. You get tied into the emotion, and it doesn't allow you to be disciplined.
I think where people get tied into old, they're always taught, don't worry, it'll come back. You're not 20, 30, 40, 50 anymore. You don't have a job to keep going until in time for it to come back. You need it there, but they're still thinking, don't worry, it'll come back. The problem is it'll come back, but at what time and how's your lifestyle going to be?
It's all about time. Time is your friend, and time is also your enemy. We don't know when the good Lord is going to call us, but we have to face mortality in our retirement years. Time is going to be your friend, or time is going to be your enemy. And recovery, and these years in recovery. We've talked about this before, Steve, like people in 2022, 2.5 years to get back. And that's with this incredible returns. And that's if they didn't touch the money. If they've been touching the money, there's still people trying to get back to where they were prior to 2022.
Moving into our next topic, Roth conversions. One person says it was late 2021 when he did the Roth conversion. He took a whole bunch of money out, paid 30% in taxes, and then still had it in the market. And there he is. Market went down 22%. So he's almost down 50, he's down 47%. And he's nowhere near. That could be detrimental, especially in retirement.
You know why, Steve? Because they try to build a house on quicksand. Whether it's tax planning, Roth conversion planning, or anything else, before you go there, the one thing that needs to be set is the foundation. Okay? Nobody likes to talk about the foundation because it's not fun, it's not sexy, it's not cool. Just like when you're building a home, who wants to talk about something that was cold and gray and oh, I can't, no, what do we want to talk about? We want to talk about the walls and the paint and everything else like that. But that house can't stand without a foundation. So that example that you just shared with your audience right now, with this individual, he converted and the markets dumped on him. He not only lost the money that he lost on taxation, but then the markets took care of the rest. The first thing that you must do before you start talking about Roth conversions, estate planning, income planning, or anything else is that you must have the correct asset allocation and you must make sure that it's been stress tested against the good, the bad, and the uncertain.
So many people need to be doing that right now. It could eliminate a lot of stress. If you do stress tests, just like you talked about, you could be walking in the next few years far more confident than the guy next to you because they didn't. In retirement, it's really about you didn't go into retirement to be stressed. You wanted to be stress free because you thought it
Yeah.
was covered. You didn't build all that money to lose it. You built it to spend it to give it to somebody else when you walk out on life. So it makes sense to stress test the exit plan and to understand how your portfolio is going to work with the good times, the bad times, and the uncertain times.
Yeah, you got to treat your portfolio like you do a $20 bill. Think about this. The last time you lost a 20 somewhere, you went nuts looking for it. I had a 20. It was sitting right here. I can't find it. You're looking all over for it, right? But you lose 200 in the markets and you're like, eh, It's just paper. No, it's a $20 bill that you care about because it fuels the lifestyle. And that's what it's all about is understanding, getting ready and preparing yourself for mid-tax mitigation. We're in the lowest tax environment, at least for the next 3 years. But what does the future hold when we have a debt where it's at? The future says it won't be too much longer until something has to give.
Yeah.
Something has to give, whether there's going to be more taxes or less money for you in Social Security. We need to make sure that we take advantage of putting ourselves in a position where the government is no longer your partner. First, make sure that you have a solid foundation, that once you convert, it's a positive for you and that there's going to be no negatives for you. Understanding that every move you make must be a positive. In retirement, we cannot afford negative movement, whether it's in the market, taxes, or anything else we do. It must be always moving forward.
Al, I want to thank you so much for being here. If you're a financial advisor looking for help to grow your business, to understand how the markets are going, you want to go to summitgp.com. We'll put it on the website for you. You can just click it. You can go right there. You can find out about Al and see how he can be a mentor for you like he's been for thousands of other financial advisors throughout the country. Al, I'm just thanking you for being here. This has been fun. It's been a pearl of wisdom.
Hey, you know what? I love conversations like this. This is so needed. It's about bringing sense to such a crazy world because our job, Steve, your job, my job is to take the chaos, interpret the chaos, show our clients how it applies to them, and then show them the opportunity. And I think us being able to do that is speaking a whole different language than so many other advisors out there today. It's what's under the hood, the map.
Hey, folks, you want to stick with us? We'll be right back with more Saving with Steve. Hey, welcome back to the Saving with Steve show where we talk about the ins and outs of money. I truly want to thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you letting your friends, family, and associates know about the show. All the replays are available at savingwithsteve.us. If you're enjoying the stories of helpful information and insight on Saving with Steve, then I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a show. Check out a few of our affiliates at UK Health Radio, BBS Radio, Talk Radio New York City, E360 TV, Las Vegas TV Network. All these networks are dedicated to empowering you to solve problems, flip your spirit, and live a life of personal and financial freedom. Follow us on Facebook and join the Saving with Steve Sexton Insider Club at savingwithsteve.us. Get all the replays, guest gifts, exclusive access to our show, videos. Now, folks, we've got a few minutes left in our show. We just want to start talking to you again about holiday scams. If you're getting scammed by some of these, you want to go to the Federal Trade Commission, talk to your local police, FBI, look at where to report these things to. Now, the scams you really want to watch out for is this. Number one, this is the time of the year where people get phone calls from people indicating they are the IRS. They'll get a phone call that says, hi, you're from the IRS. It looks official and everything. And they'll tell you, you still owe $4,000. If you don't pay that $4,000, we're going to foreclose on your house. We're going to put you in jail. And then they're going to give you a way in which you can pay for that. And they're going to get you all worked up and involved. Some people go out and get a gift card, transfer funds, send checks to certain addresses, and their money's gone. The big thing is if somebody's putting pressure on you for money and they want gift cards, Visa cards, anything like that, it's typically a scam. The IRS will never call you. They will only mail you documents saying that you owe money, you're late, here's your penalty. After that, it is up to you to respond, and you do that by writing. They don't show up at your house. You get tons of letters, so you know what's going to happen way far in advance before it does happen. If you get down the road where you have to go to court with them, you've gotten a lot of notifications from them. You talk to a lot of people. There are scams this type of year because everybody's got the holiday season going. And they'll call people that are a little bit older. They might be grandparents or retired that have kids. and they'll say, hey, this is Johnny. I'm stuck in Mexico. I'm in jail. I need you to bail me out. Now, typically do it to a relative they haven't seen in a while. This actually happened to my grandma, who was 94. She got a call from somebody impersonating my older brother and saying he was out of the country, he was stuck in jail, needs a little bit of help. Could you send some money? And grandma said, okay, hold on a second. And then called my father, who then called my brother, who was in a board meeting at the time and had to step out. We found out it was a scam. 99% of the time, it's a scam. This is the time of year where people are looking, if they're single, they're looking for somebody to be with. They call it a cuffing season. People look to date. They look to have a New Year's Eve date. They have to look to have a New Year relationship. Many people will go and source different types of websites, but you're going to have people who are professional players that sit in rooms all day long and look to start creating a relationship online with somebody, typing out things, getting to know things, learning how to pry into people, getting more information about them, creating an emotional connection through the internet. Start talking to them the whole shot. The first track is after they've been talking for a while, maybe a month or two, they find out they've moved off the dating website's communication platform to a separate email platform. It could be your email, it could be a Snapchat, it could be something like that they're going back and forth with. All right. And then when they get there, somebody's planning on coming to see somebody. For some reason, their plans get derailed. They get derailed because they have a health issue, or have a tax issue, or have a money issue of some sort, and they need help. And they've got you so emotionally connected with them. You decide to give them money. I had one client. He thought he was helping this one girl, this Asian girl, and he liquidated a portion of his savings to help her out. Hey, it was only $30,000. Once that girl got that money, no more talking. All done. I've also seen people who have been hooked up with the romance scams. They start talking to somebody online, creating a relationship, talking on the phone. They start talking about this relative of theirs, maybe an uncle who's supposed to be a cryptocurrency genius working out of Wall Street. They'll say casually, hey, you know what? If you wanted to do this, I'd introduce them to you and you can make some good money as well. We had one person that called us about this. He's having this great relationship with this lady he's actually never met, talking to her online and on the phone. He got introduced to the uncle. You know what? He said he worked on Wall Street. So he said, why don't you go check and see if he has a securities exchange license? Check him out on the SEC website. Turns out he wasn't on Wall Street. He had an address on Wall Street, but that address didn't go to him. Turns out he actually resides in the Philippines, but he works with people on Wall Street, and that's where he gets his mail. And I said, it's a scam. Don't put any money there. They'll talk about this business that's growing at 50% every 6 months and how you could invest. I know somebody who had a $400,000 IRA and continued to take money out of it. Even as a friend, we said, look, call the FBI, call the local police, ask them if it's real. Never did. When she decided to take out her money after depositing $400,000 in there, she never heard from him again. $400,000 down the drain, gone. She didn't say anything about it or do anything about it until the IRS says you took out $400,000 out of your IRA and you got to pay taxes on it. So then she filed a police report with the Federal Trade Commission, her local police, the FBI, and then she needed to do those things. So folks, it's really important. This is the time of year those happen. There's phishing emails and texts where the scammer sent a fake delivery notification for package tracking, for invoices. I get them all the time. They're designed to trick you to give personal information, social security number, birth dates, or they're installing malware so they can go take your information. There's charities and donation scams that go on right now. You want to check out the charity through Charity Navigator or GuideStar to see if it's valid, because you might be giving money to somebody in some scammer's pocket. Many people They want you to pay in gift cards. It's all fake. This is the time of year to stay vigilant, protect yourself, protect the ones you love. If something sounds weird and it's with your mom and dad or your brother and sister, best practice is being cautious of any deals that sounds too be good to be true. If you suspect the scam, report it to the appropriate authorities and protect your personal information. Very important. Again, I want to thank you for joining us here today on Saving with Steve. I hope you got a lot of value out of what we talked about. If you're looking for a financial advisor to help coach and mentor you so you can grow your business, go to summitgp.com. Mr. Caicedo has already got enough clients. He doesn't need any more. He loves helping out advisors, though. I want to thank you all for joining us today on Saving with Steve. Look forward to seeing you next time. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.